Hey, good afternoon. It's Kathy Alessandra, the Yes I Can coach, and we are here for day 3 of the Great Mind Reset. So I'm going to give it just a minute as people come on and join and click on the link in your email and all that good stuff. I hope you're having a great day on this Wednesday, June 15th, as we move through this week of the Great Mind Reset. I'm hoping you're finding some of these tools useful, that you're actually putting them into practice. I would love to hear from you. What's working for you, what's not. If you're in our Facebook group, again, please comment, share, post. Yesterday we talked about a variety of things, but the last thing we talked about was the gratitude prayer, the A to Z. Would love to know what the ahas were for you. If there were some things that you hadn't really thought about that maybe are making a great impact in your life and you hadn't really thought about them in a grateful way. And is when you were actually doing that and having to come up with words for A to Z, something actually popped up. And then, of course, the limiting beliefs exercise. That can be a really big catalyst for understanding where you're holding back, where you're struggling, where those thoughts are playing tricks in your mind as far as, what you really, who you really are, your confidence level, what you can do, and all those great things. So anyway, I'm hoping that helped you yesterday with what we went through in figuring all that out. And then as you continue to dream, right? Day 1, we talked about dreaming big and whatever that looks like. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today as we get into some of the pillars and the principles of Yes, I Can and what that actually looks like. So let's go ahead and get going with today's content. So as I said, today is all about the 3 pillars and the 4 principles of living that Yes, I Can life and really stepping into it, embodying it, embracing it, and living your best life, being the best woman that you can possibly be, or man, showing up in your business, showing up in your relationships, really setting the intentions and moving forward and seeing some of that transformation and that success and the joy and the fulfillment and all those things that when you live this way can really make a difference. So let me explain a little bit about how the whole Yes, I Can thing got started, right? I've mentioned and kind of touched on the fact that I've had some challenges that I've faced through my life, right? A divorce after 29 years. I had chosen to sell my businesses, but starting over financially because of the divorce. A bunch of different things that happened in my life that I had to, really find some tools and resources so that I could live that greater life. So I could really step into being the best woman that I can be for my relationships, for my children, for my business, for you, right? And so the 3 principles and the 4 pillars were born of the Yes, I Can movement. And they're really critical, essential pieces to living that best life. And they need to be embodied. Now, how I kind of got to this at one point was the 4 Agreements. Are you familiar with the 4 Agreements? It's an amazing book. If you've not read the 4 Agreements, you definitely need to go check it out. Don Miguel Ruiz is the author. And the 4 Agreements go like this. The 4 agreements that we make with ourselves is to be, the first one, impeccable with your word. Being impeccable with your word. And it's not just what you're saying to others. It's what you're saying up here. Right? Yes, it is how you respond in an email. Yes, it's how you maybe respond to somebody when you're out and about, and really being impeccable with your word and not going overboard in negativity or whatever. But it's also, again, being impeccable with your word to yourself. How are you speaking to yourself? How are you talking to yourself? How are you thinking out loud to yourself? Right? So being impeccable with your word is number 1. Number 2 is not taking things personally. And we take so many things personally, don't we? We don't get invited somewhere. We don't get included, or somebody else is, making more money on social media or whatever it is, right? We take things personally. We think like it's a personal attack, and it's not. You know what? 9 times out of 10, it has absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with where somebody else is at, right? There's that saying, it's none of your business. Oh, sorry, let me rephrase it from me. It's none of my business what you think of me. Right? So how can you not take things personally? And when you do get in that space, within that swirl, and we all do, and we're thinking about that, how do you flip that switch and understand this isn't about you? This is not about you at all. This is really about that person, right? Number 3 is to never make assumptions. And this goes in a variety of ways, not making assumptions about what somebody's thinking, not making assumptions about what somebody's doing, right? Ask the question. ask them the question, right? If you're not sure and you're assuming, well, you know what assuming does, right? It makes an ass out of you and me, right? So don't make assumptions. Ask, clarify, make sure, right? So, because when you do that in your life and in your business and in your relationships, right, it makes a tremendous difference because you're getting clarity and you're making sure that you're not taking assuming something and then taking it personally, right? And then not being impeccable with your word when you respond to it. Number 4 is always doing your best. Now, those first 3 agreements are huge, right? To not take things personally and to be impeccable with you. When you start thinking about all that, it can get really crazy and feel like, oh my gosh, how can I do all this? But the 4th one is always do your best. And the way that I interpret that is always do your best with living those first 3 agreements, right? We're not going to be 100% all the time, but it's becoming aware of it, becoming aware and making changes and that kind of thing. So in reading that book and really studying those principles and really beginning to live that, I was able to find more peace in my life and really be able to work on what those principles were for me and for Yes, I Can. And when I took a step back as I worked through and got through that really difficult time in my life, looking back at what was it that got me through? What were the tools that I used? And putting that into these 3 pillars and the 4 principles and really creating the Yes Method, which is a 5-step process that I've created and worked clients through for the last, 8 years. Hundreds of clients through so that they can really find their greatest life as well. So let's talk about them. There's 3 principles. They are self-care, sacred space, and support. Okay, so if you follow me for any length of time, you've already heard these, right? But nothing wrong with hearing them again, right? Maybe you'll hear it a little differently today, but it is utterly important. And please feel free to share in the comments if you've got thoughts on this, if you're struggling with this, if you have ways of dealing with this better, or some ideas to give our other listeners, great, please share them because I know they want to hear. So first is self-care. Self-care is not selfish. It is not self-centered. It is essential. It is essential. And self-care, not just the mani-pedi or, the massage, right? I'm talking about that deeper self-care for you. And what does that look like, right? In all areas of your life. I'm about it all. Yes, business, but we've also got health, wealth, faith, relationships, right? All of those things. We've got to look at all those aspects of our life and really put these tools into use. So what does self-care look like in your business? Well, it's joining a mastermind or having a business coach or a mentor or something like that, right? So that you're actually working on your business instead of in it, right? So you're up here working on your business, not down in the nitty gritty. So again, self-care in your business. Now, for your health, what does that mean? Maybe it means getting out and walking every day or going to the gym a couple days a week or maybe drinking more water or getting more rest, right? So those are kind of some obvious self-care things, but we need to put them into practice. Self-care for your finances. What does that look like? Well, that's everything from maybe creating a budget. I know so many people hate creating a budget, but a budget can be definitely something that's helpful. Maybe it's choosing not to spend that, I did today, the $5 on a cup of coffee, ridiculous, but making it at home or whatever that is, right? So again, it's self-care. That is the number one principle. Now, these principles are all equal because I want you to think about this as a 3-legged stool. You need all 3 of these principles or something's going to fall off in your life. It is going to fall over. Okay, so number 1 is self-care. Number 2, sacred space. Now, sacred space is another essential that we need to put into practice for ourselves so that we are able to nurture ourselves, that we're able to move back and out of the chaos and any of the frenetic energy. It's all about sacred space, in our physical space for sure, but also in our mental, in our emotional, in our relational, all those areas we need to think about creating that sacred space. So for me, for example, I have an area in my home and I talk about this a lot. One of my routines and rituals every single day is sitting down with my Bible and my journal and a candle and prayer and all that, right? And I've created a space in my home that is sacred to me. And I don't necessarily mean that in a religious way, right? It's that space that I'm going to honor. It's that space that I'm going to honor, okay? So I've created that space for me so that I can start my day in the right place, okay? Starting my day grounded and foundationally firm, right, is essential for me. And that is where I create sacred space. What about your office? What about your email inbox, right? Let's get rid of all that crap. Let's get out, clear out the boxes. Have they heard? Well, not many of us have many more because we have online storage, but I used to have a file drawer that would sit next to my desk, and it would have all kinds of files in it, clearing out those files, making space for those other new things to come in, right? We're getting rid of the old, bringing in the new. What about clothes? Your closet. Have you made space in there? That's sacred space, right? We're holding on to all these clothes that don't fit, or, too big, too small, whatever, because I'm going to be in it one day, or maybe it'll fit again. Would I spend so much money on it? Get rid of it, right? Create the space that you need. Let's talk about the emotional space, right? And I'll give you an example of this. Sometimes we need that space and that solitude and that silence, which I think is critical for all of us. Now, I know I have friends who can't sit in that space of silence and solitude. They have to be with somebody all the time. But I'd like to encourage you to give it a try. I was encouraged about, 10 or 12 years ago to take an overnight just by myself, which was painful. Let me tell you, I had never traveled by myself. I wasn't interested in being alone, but I was challenged to do it with no phone, no TV, no laptop, nothing, right? That's actually when I read the first Four Agreement book, the Four Agreements, and went through that. But we need to create that space for us so that our minds can empty, our hearts can empty, and it allows things to shift and flow and fill back up in the right way, right? So creating that sacred space within yourself, right? So that you can be the best version of you that you're meant to be. Because if you just keep going, and don't ever give yourself that space, that time, that silence, that solitude, it's hard to hear what you need to be doing next. It's hard to create what you need to be doing next, right? Because you're just in this frantic, frenetic, crazy, unfocused energy, right? So I really encourage you to think about that when you think about sacred space, okay? The third pillar is support. Again, critical, right? 1, 2, 3, we got to hold that up. It's support in a variety of ways, okay? Again, we're all about business, but we're all about life, right? It's health, wealth, life, love, business, your faith, everything, right? So what does that look like for support? Well, support may mean being in part of a mastermind group for your business, or joining the Yes, I Can Women's Collaborative, or having a business coach, or, there's a variety of things that people do in their business, maybe some training, right? It's getting that support. What is it in your personal life? Well, if you're having a struggle in a relationship, maybe it's getting some therapy. Maybe it's joining a support group. If you're trying to get healthy, maybe it's hiring a trainer, or getting in a walking group every day, or a few times a week, right? The point is, get the support you need for where you're finding the biggest challenges, okay? I'm going to include in my recap email today, I hadn't planned on this, but I have the yes wheel. And in that wheel, it's actually all these various areas we're talking about, right? And even more. And what I want you to do is rank where you're feeling in these various areas of your life, right? Are you at 10 when it comes to your business, and you're a 2 when it comes to your relationship, right? Are you a 3 when it comes to your physical space because it's cramped and crowded and stacked with stuff, But those are the kinds of things that I want you to do that with just all the alignment you have in there to be able to do that, and really get honest with yourself about it. And then look at those numbers. Where are you struggling most? And would some support around that help? Right? Because it will. When I've gone through some of my darkest days, my divorce, I didn't join the divorce group. I started the stupid group because I couldn't find a group, right? But I wanted to be with like-minded people who were feeling some of that same pain and anguish and frustration, right? When I was going through some of the challenges with my son, I joined Al-Anon, and connected with some other families who were going through some of the same things. My business, oh my gosh, I have a business coach. I have masterminds that I'm part of, not leading, that I'm actually part of, right? Because I need that as well. So those 3 core pillars, they are what is going to hold up the foundation for your entire life. Self-care, sacred space, and support. Okay? Super important. Again, if you're not getting help in one of those areas, if you're not really feeling fulfilled in one of those areas, it can tip over easily, right? Even if you think about it as an easel with an art, with a canvas on it, that canvas is your life. And you can paint it any way you want when it's solid and firm sitting on that easel, right? But if it falls off, it's kind of hard to paint on it. So those are the most important things. If you practice a daily ritual, if you've got some of those self-care things, I'd love to hear in the chat. What is that? What is it that you do to fill yourself up so that you can pour into others, right? What is it that you do to create space for yourself? Because again, the other people who are listening either now or later in the recording, they can use the support and ideas besides me, right? Because we've all got different ways we deal with it. And different ways work for different people, right? Different strokes for different folks. Okay, let's talk about the 4 principles. The 4 principles are be big, be bold, be bright, and be you. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about what that is. So be big is the first principle. And again, these are in no particular order. They're all important. It's just the way they flow. So be big is all about dreaming big, which we talked about on call 1, right? It's all about having that big vision, that big dream for yourself. What is it? What do you want to do? What do you want to create? Who do you want to become? Right? And going after it. We've got to step out in a big, bold way, ladies, truly in a big, bold way, and really live where we're meant to be and show up as who we're meant to be, right? And it's so, so, so important. So how are you going to be big? How are you going to be bold? How are you going to step up in your dreams? You know, I'm going through a period right now, and you're going to start seeing some shifts in some of the stuff that I'm doing because I've got a really big dream and I've got a really big calling on my life and I need to really step into it. I'm taking my own medicine. I'm walking my talk just like you. And I'm sure there are things in your dreams that are calling you to do it and you are holding back, you're stepping back, you're afraid to step in, right? That's why this first principle, to dream big, to be big, is like critical, right? That's why we started with it on day 1 in this class. Okay, so be big is the first one. Be bold is number 2. How can you step up? So here's the thing. Yes, I can is not about asking for permission or living to somebody else's expectations, right? We get concerned and in that place of fear that we shouldn't say something or shouldn't do something or not live our authentic life or do what we're really supposed to because somebody else may not like it or they may not agree with us or they may not, right? There's a gazillion different answers. In fact, I just got off of a call with a coaching group that I'm a part of, and we were talking about this, even in social media posting, right? And I was saying, I don't post about politics on my page. I do post about my faith, but I don't post about politics. And some others were talking about, and of course, when I was thinking politics, I was thinking presidential politics. But then, of course, we went in further and we were talking about women's issues. We were talking about, gender issues. We were talking about diversity, inclusion issues, right? All those things, right? And so when you're bold, when it is your brand and it's you and you're doing whatever it is you're doing, are you showing up in a bold way? Are you standing up and stepping out and representing who you really are and not being afraid to do it? I know it's scary. I know it's fearful. I know I'm having to get some extra rah-rah from some of my girlfriends who are in this realm with me. You know, again, walking my talk as I'm stepping up into this new stuff that I'm doing. And it's scary because not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody's going to agree with me. And, that's okay. Again, I go back to that saying, it's not in my business what you think about me, right? So anyway, be bold. Be bold, stand from the mountaintops and express yourself and who you are and what you stand for in everything that you're doing. Okay? Be big, be bold, be bright. That's the third one. Now, what I mean here is resilience. Resilience. Let's talk about the last couple of years and your resilience. All of us have had to have perseverance and resilience as we've gone through the last couple of years. Yes, can we be taken down a path of extreme depression, sadness, frustration? Absolutely. No doubt about it. It has been a struggle for many people. The depression and anxiety in our society right now, it is at an all-time high. I mean, just huge, right? There are more people, I forget the percentage, more people on antidepressant and anxiety medications than ever before. Nothing wrong with that. There is no shame in any of that. We need to do whatever it is we need to do, along with our doctor, to make sure that we're, taking care of ourselves. But how can you flex that resilience muscle in your business, in your finances, in your relationship? How about in your mindset, right? Knowing that you are enough, that you are continuing to do what you need to do, that when you get knocked down, 10 times, you stand up 12, right? Resilience. Because let me tell you, you're put in this world, you're put on this earth for a reason. There is something that is in your heart and in your soul that you are meant to do. And I know that you are striving to go do that. And then something happens and it knocks you down and you're not seeing progress. And maybe it's not happening exactly in the timing that you're wanting. But here's the thing, if you don't have resilience, you're not going to keep going. And you've got to have that resilience. You've got to be bright. You've got to shine your light on this world and allow that resilience to come through and keep moving, keep trucking. Maybe it needs just an ever so slightly shift. They say the slightest shift can make the greatest impact. Maybe it's that you haven't done enough in that particular area. I can't tell you the number of people who've launched things and they do a day of marketing and it doesn't work and they think it's over, right? Maybe it's, being resilient in your relationships, right? If you've gone through a breakup or whatever, are you stepping into friendships or a significant other relationship? How can you be resilient in how you're facing that, right? Letting things shed, but also continuing to move forward, knowing what your intention is, knowing what your dreams and desires are. So super important to shine. Yeah, be resilient, be bright, let your light shine through. The fourth one is to be you. And I know that seems like an obvious one, but let me ask you, when was the last time that you tried to be somebody else that you weren't? I would venture to guess it probably hasn't been all that long ago, right? Maybe in a social media post, maybe in a conversation at a dinner, maybe at a conference that you were at, or talking to the grocery store clerk, or whatever it is, right? Sometimes we're afraid to really step into who we are, and we play small, and we take a step back. We compare and we compete to no end. Stop it. Just stop, please. Stop the social media scroll and comparing yourself to this or that person and what they're doing and who they are and what they stand for, right? Stop looking at, the person who walks by you at the gym and is all skinny and looks great. They've got struggles too, right? It goes in so many ways, right? Again, it goes back to showing up as who you're meant to be, right? You have a calling. You have a nudge. There is something deep inside of you. We're going to be talking this tomorrow about the restlessness inside of you and what that really means and what it could be indicating. But by showing up as you, by being you authentically, fully aligned from heart to soul to feet, right? That is where you're going to attract the right people in your life, in your business, your clients, your customers, the people that you're meant to work with, in your relationships, your girlfriends and your guy friends. Because if you're trying to be somebody that you're not, and then that becomes discovered, right? Maybe not in that kind of a way, but underneath, right? I've been in relationships in the past where I've tried to be somebody and live up to that person's expectations or be more, comfortable or casual or whatever. I've settled, I've allowed, right? And I've learned I can't do that and be the best person that I'm meant to be, to live my greatest life, to support others, right? If I am not stepping up and stepping out as the woman that I'm meant to be. And so for you, what does that mean? And what does that look like? How can you stop comparing and competing? If you get on social media and that's all you can do, then get off. Take a social media break. Just take a break. If you've got a post, then go ahead and schedule the darn post, but then stay off. A couple of days, a week, it's not going to hurt, really. It's going to help your head and your heart so that you can really get out of that. And sometimes we get in that circle. What about blocking the person? Not unfriending or, I'm not talking about it in a nasty way, but if there's somebody in particular that you're comparing yourself with, you can snooze them. You can snooze them for 30 days on Facebook. Snooze them so that you're not looking at that all the time. Stepping up and finding, the right people to be in your surrounding, to be in your life. And the only way, again, that's going to happen is as you show up as who you are, right? What you stand for, who you are, what your values are, right? That's an important one, because if you're not aligned with somebody and who they are and what their values are, then having that close bond, having that trusted relationship, whether it be a client or whether it be a friend or a significant other, whatever it is, it makes it extremely difficult, right? And then you're sacrificing yourself. You're sacrificing yourself and your happiness and your joy, and not to mention what it's doing for the other person, because it's not serving that relationship correctly then, or that client, or whatever that is. So be you, really be you. So again, it's be big, be bold, Be bright and be you. Really step into being you. So those are the three principles and the three pillars and the four principles of living your Yes, I Can life. And they are critical and they are essential. I will send you in today's recap this afternoon. I'm going to send you that the yes wheel exercise so that you can take a look at that and really take a look in areas where you're just not feeling that joy and that happiness. Um, and it's the kind of thing, save the document, do it again in 6 months. When I work with my clients, I have them start there, and it's always amazing to me how things shift and change, right? You're not always going to find the same numbers. And then you become aware of maybe why you do have that restlessness within inside, maybe why you are not feeling that total happiness and that joy inside, because you hadn't realized that maybe you were missing having that date night, or missing having, a clear space or whatever. I mean, it could be as simple as painting a wall in your room, right? Or in your home. It could be as simple as making a coffee date with a girlfriend once a week, right? But until you really take stock, take an assessment of your own life, right? And it's super easy. It'll take you 3 minutes to do, right? And then take a look at those numbers and start there. And then again, think about the self-care. What are you doing for self-care in the areas? What are you doing to create sacred space? Commitments and obligations are another thing that you may want to think about letting go. Again, strategic yeses and abundant nos, right? And support. Where can you get additional support? I'm here for you. There's other women in the group that are here for you. We have our Yes, Our Can Women's Collaborative here for you, right? They're going to be a group program. I mean, there's so many different options, whether it's me or it's somebody else. So there is your foundation. There are your pillars so that your canvas of your life, however you want to live it and whatever it looks like and how you want to paint it, can be held up in a firm foundation. And then living with those principles, always thinking about that. How can I show up in my dreams? How can I be bold in what I'm doing? How can I be bright and resilient in just the little daily things, not to mention the bigger things? And how today can I really show up and be exactly who I'm meant to be, being me in every aspect so that I'm attracting the right people into my life and vice versa? I'd love to hear your answers in the chat, in our Facebook group. Please share, let the other women know, right? Because if we're able to create that community in our Facebook group, then that's a place where people can feel safe to be able to express themselves. And I'm always surprised when somebody else says one thing and they're feeling one way, there's always somebody else who's feeling the exact same way. You're not alone. I've been there, I've done it, and there's others in this group who are in the same space. So take a look for that email recap at the end of, around 3:00 today, and I will attach that document for you. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about the core of this restlessness that some of us are feeling. That knowing, that nudging, there's something in there, and there's things that I want to talk about that you can help to uncover what that is and how you can really move through in that, and then discover what potentially your passion and what your real purpose in life might be. So we're going to be diving into that tomorrow, and then Friday we're coming together and we're going to create the plan. We're going to be looking at how you can actually put some of these steps and things into place so that you can walk away with what you need to do next. Okay. All right. I hope you have a great afternoon. Please hit reply when you get the emails. I'd love to hear from you personally. Let me know how it's going. Let me know if there's something I haven't covered that you'd really like to learn some more about. I hope you have a wonderful, blessed afternoon, and we will see you tomorrow right back here for the Great Mind Reset. Bye-bye. Maybe.